what did you want to get into, Jordan?
Yeah, so my topic this week is the importance of genres in video games. And, we might get into the importance of genres in other forms of media, but I think it's especially important in video games because jumping over to movies, movie genres, it's like the subject matter
Yes.
is different, right? If you're going to see an action blockbuster, maybe a comic book movie, if you're going to see a horror movie, if you're going to see a dramedy, like a family dramedy, those are very different, and your content is going to be different. With a video game, sure, it may change the tone based on your genre, whether, like Borderlands is more of a comedy game, and obviously something like Bloodborne or Dark Souls is very serious. But the genre also has to do with how it plays and what type of game it is, whether it's third person or first person. The genre in video games almost matters more than in any other medium because it not only affects the tone, but it also really has to do with the game mechanics and how the game is played itself. So, I guess we could start off by talking about what some of our favorite genres are and how these different genres relate to each other, and just looking at the industry
You know
as a
what's
whole.
interesting? Since you brought this up, I was thinking about like, well, what are my favorite genres? And growing up, my favorite genre was shooters. Like, I loved shooters. It's probably why I went
Huh.
from being a PlayStation kid to going to Xbox 360. That's the shooter console, right?
360, yeah, was the shooter console.
So I love shooters. I still love shooters. Shooters are like Metro Last Light's one of my favorite games of all time, and I appreciate
Wow.
solid shooting mechanics. But as I've grown, I've realized that like I'm not that I'm more open, but I'm more willing to try other genres, and I really appreciate other genres. My favorite genre currently is probably 2D platformers. And maybe a wider genre are indie games. You guys have seen maybe the last 3 weeks, I haven't really played anything AAA. I've been playing indie games. I mean, my
Yeah.
game of the year is Inside. And it's not that I don't like AAA games. I love AAA games, but I do appreciate smaller games. And so like the last 3 games I played are 2D games, and it's just interesting that you can. How do I say this? There's so many different genres of video games, and the fact that the genres usually based on the gameplay and not on the actual meat of the game, like its story or anything, means that you can have a wider spread, like more things on your plate essentially. So for me, when it comes to movies, I don't really like horror movies. Not that I'm scared by them. I just think they're very generic and repetitive.
They
Obviously,
usually suck, though, is the problem.
yeah. There's some very creative horror movies that come out every once in a while. But for the most part, I don't really like horror movies. I don't really like action movies either, personally. Like hardcore action, like the Die Hards and stuff like that. That's a bad example. Die Hard's a good movie, but like the newer action movies, like the Bourne Legacy and stuff like
It's a
that.
great Christmas movie.
Yeah, but when it comes to video games, I'm always willing to try a genre I'm not super familiar with or I super like, just because it can be so different than a game in the same genre. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Though Rogue Legacy and Spelunky share a lot of things gameplay-wise, the actual aesthetic of the game and the quote-unquote story of the game are completely different. The tone of the game are completely different, And that's the interesting thing
Right.
about video games. Very rarely can you watch 2 horror movies back-to-back and there's not at least 80% crossover. You can play 2
Yeah.
different JRPGs and they're completely different. Yeah, the gameplay is the same for the most part, but the whole tone and the story and everything, the meat and potatoes of the game can be completely different. And that's what I love about video games, is that you can take 2 things in the same genre and they can be completely different games. Or they can be the same. Look at Uncharted and
Yeah.
Tomb Raider for the most part. They're different, but they
Yeah.
are kind of the same. And that's what I love about video games. I think there's a lot more to a game genre and to a game specifically than just the genre. I think when you're pitching a movie, the genre can sell the movie. For a video game, the genre is part of selling the video game. There's other things to it than just the genre, I think. So,
Oh yeah.
So-
Oh yeah. For me, you were talking about like 2D platformers, really something that you enjoy, and shooters being a really big part of your genre enjoyment. I think for me, I started as a really young kid with a lot of 2D platformers, and then moved on to like a lot of 3D platformers like Jack and Ratchet. And now I've really gotten into RPGs since like late high school, and just having deeper mechanics to mess around with in video games I really like. and I still play shooters, but I've slowed down on them. I don't play nearly as much shooters. So for me, like if I can have a third-person action adventure RPG, that's like my fucking dream. That's
your
as good
birthday
as it
cake,
gets
yeah.
for me. So, and if it has a dash
so
button,
for me on the opposite end of that, like 2D platformer with solid mechanics is my birthday cake. Like if it feels right. Yeah. So. What about you, Dom? With genres?
So I guess really quick, the first thing I want to point out is like your perception of genres can be very different than someone else's too, and that's going to drive a lot of this. So if you ask some people what an RPG is, give me an example of an RPG, they might say Chrono Trigger or Persona 4 Golden, whereas I would probably say first I'd say Dark Souls, Skyrim, Fallout. Those are.
Yeah, I guess you're getting into subgenres at this point.
Western RPG
So, point being like perception. So, like here in America, when you hear RPG, you think of some of those examples first that I mentioned, as opposed to those JRPGs. Neither is wrong or right. It's just that perception can sometimes change what you think of a genre. Like, oh, I don't like RPGs, but then you're actually playing Fallout, but you don't see it. You know what I mean?
And a lot of video games blend genres too. They hit multiple things. So.
Which is why my favorite genre is definitely right with you, Jordan. Like an action RPG, basically. Something.
Yeah, third person or first?
Probably third, preferably. But I mean that part's not necessarily important, I guess. So reason being, like it combines the best parts of different things. Like depending on the game, you're getting some some moment-to-moment combat or gameplay that's just as good as a pure action game, and you're also getting those RPG elements that those games previously would kind of lack that gameplay and that sort of thing. So I think the action adventure like RPGs that we have nowadays, or Western RPGs, are just I think that's like just the prime genre in gaming today, and that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. The cool thing is that's why I like third-person games like that too, is because they can take what I love about 2D platformers, which is like the pixel-perfect, frame-perfect movement that you need to have, and that's applied in like Dark Souls and stuff. So it takes the aspects from other games and puts it in there that you can like, and I like those kind of games too. I think I have way less video game genres that I would say I'm never going to play that than movies, I'm never gonna watch a gospel movie. It's just not.
Okay, that's like that's way off.
No, but what I'm saying is like.
So count Jared out for Sister Act 3 featuring
or like very
Goldberg.
Religious movies, but like for instance, I don't like RTSs. I've never liked RTSs. I always struggle playing them because I don't enjoy them. If there's a new RTS that people like, or if for some reason it's Games with Gold, I will always download and try it. Even though in my heart I know I won't like the game, I give it a try because there might be an RTS that comes along one day that makes me like RTSs,
Who played Banner Saga?
I haven't played it. I haven't downloaded. Banner Saga 2 is currently downloaded. It was Games with Gold. I haven't played it yet.
Okay.
I also never used to like turn-based RPGs, and then I realized I've been playing one my whole life. Pokemon.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
Yeah, I was like...
Yep. They're more fun than you realize.
So, I'm always willing to try stuff, and I think subgenres are cool. I found out about... Do you know what a CRPG is? Yeah, did not know that was a thing. I was like, what's a CRPG? And they're like, oh yeah, the first two Fallouts. And I was like, oh, completely understand what a CRPG is,
Yeah. I mean, CRPG is almost like a weird term used these days just because it's like... computer RPGs evolved into what Dom was talking about with action RPGs, what they are today. So it's kind of like an evolved genre. Right.
Yeah, I really have nothing else to say about genres. What about you guys?
So I just had a question for you, Dom, since you've talked about how, Jared, you were just mentioning how you love jumping around genres and trying out new things when it comes to video games. Dom was talking about how he really hasn't played many indies up until now, getting a Vita. So, talk a little bit about that. Like, have you mostly just stayed in AAA genres?
Generally up until now. Like I've said, I haven't played very many indies at all. But outside, like just in the AAA space, I've jumped genres around. I like shooters a lot too. I like RPGs. Right. It's been a while, but I do like RTSs. Age of Empires used to be one of my favorite games. Never got into Civilization, but I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's more turn-based than an RTS, even though it's the same kind of.
Yeah, it's more turn-based, but it definitely does have a lot of like RTS mechanics to it. I actually like Civ, which is weird because I don't like RTSs, but I like the idea of Civ, I should say. I don't play it or buy it, but I like watching people play it, which is weird, but...
So...
Shout out to Age of Empires on PC, though.
And, like, your fucking, like, old beat-up PC could run it, too. When you're 8 years old, you didn't need much. That and RuneScape. Whew. Wow, it's been a while since I said RuneScape. That'll be a separate topic someday.
So I like your question about that. So now that you're experiencing, I mean, a lot of indie games are for the most part 2D, especially on handhelds, right?
Yeah, it's like blowing my mind, dude. I don't know how you've. It's like you've survived for years without water or something. My indies are my water.
Even the games like on Game Boy that I like the most weren't platformers. Like I never got into any of the Mario games or anything like that 2D, but I love like the 2D Zelda games and the top-down 2D stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is an area where I'm kind of jumping into. I don't have a whole lot of experience there. And that's why I was real eager to try Shovel Knight.
If you weren't really into 2D platformers, were you?
Oh yeah, 3D absolutely. Platformers? I mean, Super Mario 64 was one of the first games I ever played. I think one of my favorite games of all time. I also really liked Jak and Daxter. Even like there was a lot of licensed games. Like I remember there was a SpongeBob game based on the SpongeBob movie or something.
SpongeBob. When I was mentioning 3D platformers earlier, I was thinking about some SpongeBob games because they had some great ones.
It probably sucked. If I looked at it today, I'd be like, this game is just complete trash. But at the time, it was cool.
I think about those a lot. Yeah, I think about if I have rose-tinted glasses.
Exactly.
The first 3 video games I completed, like front to back, were Super Mario 64, the original Spyro, and the original Crash. So I have a fondness for those kind of games.